This data visualization highlights a severe democratic imbalance. In India, women make up nearly 48% of the population. Yet, following the 2019 general elections, female representation in the Lok Sabha sat at just 15%, far below the global average of 26%. To address this specific disparity, lawmakers introduced the 106th Constitutional Amendment Act in September 2023. The vote passed the lower house with a sleeping 454-2 majority, resulting in widespread celebration across party lines. The legislation explicitly mandates a 33% reservation for women in both the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies. However, despite the overwhelming political consensus, this quota did not apply to the 2024 elections. As the law is currently written, it will not apply to the 2029 elections either. The legislation contains specific legal prerequisites that halt its immediate implementation. These mechanisms ensure the law cannot take effect until other constitutional processes are finished. The result is a historic law that functions as a multi-stage constitutional process, requiring a specific sequence of administrative milestones to be met before the seats are actually reserved. The first explicit legal prerequisite written into the Act states that the reservation can only be implemented after the first national census conducted post-2026. Executing a national census across a population of 1.4 billion people is a staggering logistical exercise. Even if enumeration begins strictly on schedule in 2027, processing raw demographic data requires at least 12 to 18 months before it is officially published. Once that data is published, it triggers the second requirement, the Delimitation Commission. This body cannot legally begin its work until the final census figures are finalized. This commission is legally mandated to redraw the geographic boundaries of all 543 Lok Sabha seats and over 4,000 state assembly constituencies. Historical precedent shows that past delimitation exercises have taken between 3 to 6 years to finalize due to the extreme complexity of interstate seat reallocation. This chart maps the sequential requirements. We move from the 2023 Act to the post-2026 census into data processing, triggering the Delimitation Commission. By stacking these blocks consecutively, the earliest possible mathematical date for implementing women's reservation is pushed to the 2034 elections. By linking the quota to the completion of both the census and delimitation, the legislature has established a timeline that lasts until the middle of the next decade. To understand the political motive behind this timeline, we have to look at why the Delimitation Commission is highly controversial. In 1976, parliamentary constituency boundaries were frozen based on the 1971 census. This was designed to reward states that successfully implemented family planning policies, ensuring their proportional representation wouldn't shrink as their birth rates dropped. This graph visualizes the severe demographic divergence over the last 50 years. High-growth northern states show surging population curves, while southern states have stabilized. Because of this shift, redrawing boundaries means southern states risk losing proportional representation and political influence. The women's reservation quota is deliberately tethered to this highly volatile, unresolved federal dispute. This linkage offers immediate political convenience. It effectively avoids the immediate displacement of approximately 181 sitting male members of parliament. Anchoring women's representation to this explosive north-south seat imbalance allows the current political makeup to remain unchanged for years, revealing a structural reluctance to implement the reform immediately. We can project the structural vulnerabilities of the 106th Amendment by examining historical data from the 1992, 73rd, and 74th Amendments, which established local quotas. Statistically, these local initiatives succeeded in bringing women into governance roles at the grassroots level, achieving 44% female representation in Panchayati Raj institutions. However, a 30-year review of these local institutions exposes critical design flaws the new bill replicates. The first major design flaw is the rotation policy. By rotating which constituencies are reserved for women every election cycle, female politicians are routinely forced out of office after a single term. This prevents them from building tenure or political capital. The second major vulnerability documented in local governance is the phenomenon of the proxy candidate. Rigid patriarchal structures in local administration often result in elected women serving merely as fronts, with their daily responsibilities completely controlled by their male relatives. Cross-referencing these historical failures with the 106th Amendment exposes glaring omissions in the current law. The new mandate strictly limits reservation to the lower houses, completely excluding the Rajya Sabha and state legislative councils. The Act also provides no sub-reservations for women from other backward classes, ignoring the intersectional reality of roughly 40% of India's female population. Empirical data proves that quotas without robust institutional safeguards merely shift the venue of patriarchal control, rather than dismantling it. To salvage the intent of the 106th Amendment and enforce it before 2034, specific legal interventions are required. The primary expert recommendation is decoupling. The reservation must be legally severed from the delimitation sequence through a new constitutional amendment. Immediate implementation could be achieved within existing constituencies or by modestly expanding the Lok Sabha before a full delimitation exercise takes place. The Act itself also requires structural fixes. The quota must be extended to the upper houses, and clear rules for seat rotation must be established. Introducing sub-quotas for other backward classes is necessary to ensure equitable representation and prevent elite capture. The government must also deploy extensive capacity-building programs. Female candidates need administrative training to prevent the proxy phenomenon seen in local panchayats. Without a published, accelerated implementation roadmap, the historic 2023 vote risks remaining a performative gesture. Achieving true political equity requires rigorous constitutional execution and the dismantling of structural barriers, demanding legislative action long before the 2034 rollout.